To help you with your morphology homework, I thought we would go through together this morphology problem about Persian. It's a little more complex than the Lakota one, but it will show you all the techniques you're going to need. And so we're given all this data here from Persian. Persian, also known as Farsi, is spoken in Iran. So let's see what we can decide based on this. So first thing I'm noticing, because whoever did this put some spaces in here, is those first words of every phrase. So every phrase that starts with I, the first person singular pronoun, in its gloss starts with man in Persian. So and also, in linguistics, we're looking for those always nevers. There's no other mans. So they always go together. Every phrase that's I has man. Every phrase that's man has I. So we can say pretty clearly that our first person singular pronoun, otherwise known as I, is man. And then we can do the same thing with the other ones, right? So every time we have you, we have shoma. So shoma is very likely to means you. Every time we have you, we have shoma. Every time we have shoma, we have you. Every time we have man, we have I. Every time we have I, we have man. So we can gloss both of those right away. And so now that we have this first and second person pronouns, I and you, we can figure out some inflectional morphology too, agreement morphology. So if you notice, every phrase that has man also has am. And so that makes me think this is the first person singular agreement. Agreement is the suffix you put in the verb to make it match with man. English doesn't have a prefix we put on I, so we just say like I sing. There's no prefix that goes on there, but lots of other languages, for example, Spanish and Italian both use O for the first person singular agreement, and it looks like Persian uses am. Second person agreement appears to be Eid. You see those Eids in all the phrases with Shoma, and you might get a little carried away and say we see deed in all the cases with Shoma, but look, this one we don't. And remember, we're looking for always never. So the one string of segments we always see is Eid. So we'll get to that D another time. And so look, we're pretty far on our way here. And so I think colors will really help you with this. If you're using a tablet, I encourage you to highlight. If you print it out, get your set of markers out so you can help keep everything straight. So let's keep looking at the unsolved parts here. So now we can really notice clearly that every single phrase here includes the string hun. There's that voiceless velar fricative again. And every sentence, every gloss includes the English word read. So that makes me think the verb read in Persian is hun. And just like before, a lot of them have hund, right? So here's hund, 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 hund. But because they're not all hund, again, we're going to say that D is something else. So all of these hunds are going to be read. And now, as we're taking things away a little more, we can see that a lot of these phrases appear to have just one morpheme at the end. See all these ishes here? And again, if you look at the gloss, those are all the ones with it. So everyone with an it has an ish at the end of the Persian. And there's no ish here, no it, no ish, no it, no ish, no it, no ish, no it. So we can say with confidence that we can gloss ish, we can translate ish as it. And every time we see book, we see kitab, and every time we say kitab, we see book. So we can gloss it correspondingly, which means let's translate kitab as book. And maybe some of you know a little bit of Arabic and you might already know that kitab means book. So Persian has borrowed this word from Arabic. But even if you don't, you can still logic it out. And when we just see kitab, it's glossed as a book, right? But there's no other prefixes or suffixes on these two where it says a book. So we'll assume that their indefinite article suffix is null. How do we know it's a suffix? Because the book, kitab ro, does have a suffix. So apparently ro, that's the definite article suffix. And remember, one thing I said to watch out for with these morphology problems is languages have words in different order. So in English, you put the before the noun. In Persian, they put ro after the noun, but it has that same meaning of definiteness. Definite article is a grammatical term for the, just like indefinite article is a grammatical term for a or an. Okay, so given these colors, we've got a lot of this worked out now. Like we have very little left that's not figured out. So now we can look at our tense morphology. So anytime the verb is in the present tense, so I am reading, you are reading, I am not reading, those are all present tense and they all have me. And then there's no me in any of these, and those are all past tense. So again, we can say me must mark the present. We don't know if it's present progressive, like be verbing, or just present, like be. So we don't know if it's like literally you are reading, or if it's you read a book. If you know some Romance languages, you know they often use the simple present where we would use this ing form. So I sing would be used in place of I singing. But we don't need to know that yet. We can just say it's present tense. And then we have this D suffix when the verb is in the past. So it's a little advanced here that we have the present as a prefix and the past as a suffix. So I promise the Lakota doesn't have anything quite that advanced going on in it. But it is interesting. In English, we also use a D to make the past tense, right? And Persian is a distant relative of English, so it'd be interesting to know if that is a connection or a coincidence. There are all those Ds. So remember, we didn't say that hund was the word for read because it wasn't here. We didn't say that deed was our second person singular agreement, by which I mean a suffix we put on the verb when the subject is you. And we waited and we found a way to do it. These are all past tense. I didn't read it. Did you read it? You read it. They're all past tense and they all have this D suffix. And I'm calling it a suffix because it comes after the root. There is a little redundancy with what we have left. Just like we saw a little bit of extra meaning in those Hebrew suffixes. So there's only one present negative verb. We see it here. I am not reading a book. Man ketab nemi hunam. And it uses ne. But we already have the present marked with me. And then the past verbs that we see here, and I didn't read it and you didn't read the book, they have na. So what we can't say is that n is the prefix that means negative, because then we can't say a means present because the non-negative presents don't have this. And we can't say a means past because the non-negative past don't have it. So we have these suffixes that mean past and negative. And there is some redundancy in language. It can help you out if you miss part of what someone says. And again, there's nothing advanced like that in the Lakota homework, but it is something that happens in real world languages. So look, we have, with all the colors of the rainbow here, we have glossed all of the morphemes in this little data set here. So now all that's left to do is list the morphemes. So we have 3 prefixes, a present prefix, and 2 negations, one used in the past and one used in the present. We have 4 roots, 2 verb roots, ketab for book and hun for read. And we have 2 pronouns, man for the first person singular pronoun, again, that's I, and shoma, that's the second person singular pronoun, that's you. And we have a lot of suffixes in this language. So am is first person singular agreement. So whenever you see man, you see am. Eid is second person singular agreement. So whenever you see shoma, you see Eid. We have the object of the verb it, so as in I read it, that kind of it, is ish, and they put it as a suffix on a verb. And you might know something similar they do with prefixes in Romance languages. Past tense suffix is this just a d sound. And then something very exotic for us, the word the that we use as a the in Persian, it's a suffix ro. And because we never want to forget about these null suffixes, the indefinite article is not pronounced at all. And now that we have all this, we could make our own Persian sentences, right? So we're going to do something a little like that at the end of this video here. And we can also translate Persian phrases. All we need to know here is we have a new verb and it means see. So now we've got man bindamish to translate. And so we have man, we know that means I. Oh, of course, this would be a good time to pause the video if you want to figure it out, right? Okay, so ish, we know that means it. We have that right there. It as object of the verb. And am, we know that is just agreement. So any verb that has man as a subject is going to have am. And then D, we know that is the past tense. So if the verb means see, it's going to be I saw it. So we know all those pieces. Man bindamish means I saw it. And just so you know, in case you missed it, I know the verb means see because it says so right here. So now we can add to our list, right? We could write that bin means see. I don't know any related words that are connected to that. See right here on our list. Okay, and our second sentence, Shoma Ketab Nabindid. So Shoma, we know that's you, the second person singular profile. You're doing something to a book, or rather you're not doing something to a book because na is negative past tense. And yes, we do see this past tense suffix here. And then id for second person singular agreement. So you didn't see a book. And it's not the book because it's not kitab ro, it's kitab. So it's like a book. So we can figure that out based on what we saw. And one more thing I can show you. Remember we were talking before about me, and we said we don't know if me is marking the present or the present progressive, that sort of ing present. If we look at this sentence here, man kitab ro nemi hundam, we have both of them. And so maybe we can assume that the me is actually not present. Maybe this solves our problem from earlier with the prefix suffix situation. Maybe me is for the progressive, and there's another present tense that is a null suffix, just like in English, right? We don't use a suffix for the present tense. And so me, that's for our progressive. So we can translate this as I'm doing something to the book, or rather, I'm not doing something to the book. I wasn't reading the book. So I know that went pretty fast there, right? So man, that's the I part. And then we saw this. We're now going to say that me is the progressive part. So we'll put that as the ing on the verb. And of course, the book, that's kitab ro. Sorry, I didn't roll my R that well there. With the ro being the and kitab being book. And we already knew this verb, read. That's hun, but it's negative, right? So we have to say the ne, that's the, I guess we can now say it's not present negation, but progressive negation, right? So that's the nt on wasn't. And then we have a past tense morpheme here, the d, and that's marking, and the was here is marking the past. And if you want to call, we don't have an equivalent of this in English because we don't have first person singular agreement, but we can underline that in red to say it's showing again that I is the subject of the sentence. So that's pretty satisfying to me to solve that mystery about me and solve that problem where me was a prefix, D was a suffix. Of course, that doesn't mean that this is not a perfectly adequate analysis of Persian. It's just we can get a little further and find nicely, like we'd like in linguistics, to have a system that everything fits together nicely. So I hope this helps you with your Lakota. Like I said, the Lakota is a simpler one than this, but it still has some challenges in it. And don't forget there's some no morphemes that you're going to find in there. And if there's any problems with it after watching this and after trying it, please let me know. Otherwise, have a nice break and I will see you afterwards.